Hello, business owners. Hello, my fellow citizens and my customers and my prospective customers. This is Daryl Guberman. I am the CEO of Guberman PMC LLC. We're a quality consulting firm in Connecticut. We've been open going on 12 years as of 2023. I've been involved with quality for over 40 plus years. Aerospace, medical implants, medical materials, printing, and plastic distribution, which we got into all kinds of different industries supplying plastics. What we do as far as the business end, we assist companies in manufacturing quality and also quality certification of all derivatives and also special processes. Today, this is about Daryl Guberman, ANSI nominee, exposes ANSI. And that's all I'm going to say, the American National Standards Institute. I saw some information on ANSI's website about becoming a director at large, putting in your paperwork, all the rest of that, and I applied in June. I had 16 letters of recommendation that I had my customers give me, so that added a little bit more firmness to the foundation of what I was sending in. I contacted Elena Constantopoulos, a fantastic woman there at ANSI, very competent, very nice person. She sent me a package back to me. And in the package, because I'm doing this because I've had a lot of emails saying, Daryl, I can't believe that Joe Bathia wouldn't get you on the board. He sent you a letter. This is actually a form letter, but this was a part of the package. One of the things that I really focused in on by reading this letter is the code of conduct. I really focused in on that because any good manager, leader, etc., who's going to be on any board should really read the bylaws and code of conduct and what is required for you prior to your submission to getting on that board. I put together a 54-page document. I'm sure they never received something like this, and I submitted it to ANSI. And I'll have to say this. There was 9 questions within that packet that we had to answer as to what Daryl Guberman brings to the table for ANSI. Well, I felt that since I'm dealing with the small mom and pop shops out there in the world, I've dealt with them all the time. Probably the most amount of people that I've ever dealt with, probably about 100 people, 150 people. So I wanted to be that conduit between ANSI, actually between them, the smaller mom and pop shops, the 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 people, whatever, and hopefully get to contact, be an intermediary between them and between the corporations that sit on ANSI and also the federal government, the federal agencies that sit on them. So I put that in. I really was aggressively putting that into those 9 questions as to what Daryl Guberman can bring to the table for ANSI. I got to the bottom of the questionnaire that they sent me, and it said this: the committee appreciates your interest in serving in an ANSI leadership position and your willingness to provide us this additional information. Sincerely, Russ Cheney, chairman of the ANSI 2022 nominating committee. Well, business owners and my fellow citizens, etc., and my customers, in 2019, I had a funny phone call from Russ Cheney, and he was the chairman at the time. So as the chairman, there's a certain, like I said, the first thing I read was the code of conduct that Joe Bathia was kind enough to send in that form letter. And that's where you go. And basically, a code of conduct is knowing right from wrong, good from bad, etc. So what I did was I exposed a factor about A2LA in 2019. Let me tell you what happened. In 2019, I was doing some investigative work for my customers because they wanted, 2017, 18, etc., investigative work about laboratory accreditation certification per ISO 17025. I looked it up, a very wide spectrum standard. I looked it up and I told them, yeah, we can get that done for you. And as I looked further, I saw my competition, ANSI ANAB, that they sat on ANSI's board. And what happened is A2, A2LA, which is a accreditation body for laboratories, sat on ANSI's board, right over by ANAB. Now, ANAB was taken over by ANSI in 2018, but at that time, and this time, they're still, at that time in 2019, they had, already taken it, each other over. ANSI taking over, ANAB. So you also have ASCLD Lab, which is owned by ANSI ANAB. And you have ANAB as a standalone registrar/accreditation body for laboratory. So we exposed and we said, they sit on the board. That's number one. Number two is they're sitting right over there by federal agencies that they certify. And they also sit by forensic laboratories that they're certifying. So it's kind of not like impartiality at all. They're all scratching each other's back. And on top of it, they were sitting on the International Accreditation Forum, which was at that time incorporated in China, incorporated in Delaware, but run by a communist Chinese national. A lady at A2LA contacted us, Ashley Morton. Ashley Morton said that A2LA does not sit on ANSI's board. They are both American accreditation bodies with equal standing. Now, that's what she said. We went back, we did another video, and as you can see, business owners, take a look at that, my fellow citizens. A2LA does sit on ANSI's board. A gentleman, Russ Cheney, happened to contact me, and he left me a message that night. And it was just absolutely unbelievable what he left me. And here he is. Here's Russ Cheney. And I'm going to play for you what he did. And yes, he did say half a nut, fuck you. To make matters worse, okay, I wrote a letter. I contacted Joe Battia, who we're basing this video on. And here he is. Now, this is from 2020. It shows the breakdown of his compensation, which is absolutely outrageous in the fact that he basically went and he approved the half a nut fuck you, I guess, as the mission statement for the organization. We will get into this. It is just unbelievable. We sent a letter to Joe Battia, and Joe Battia did the managerial thing and sent it off to his attorney. But I will say this, business owners, as Russ Cheney had the defining say as who was going to go on the board at the beginning of the nomination and at the end of the nomination, so does this guy. He has the defining say on what goes with that letter and what is said to a person like me. So we sent it out, and he sent it actually to Jameson Carroll of Carroll and Weiss in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, Carroll Weiss, Jameson Carroll, listened to the audio file. And this is what he said. After he heard this, I'm going to play it again. Yes, Jameson Carroll heard half a nut fuck you, but this is not what he said. This is what he said. He said, after analysis, we were unable to identify any harassing or objectionable content in the brief audio file provided. Well, several years ago, I received an email from an attorney of 40 years, involved with the court. And this is what he said to me in the email. He said this: nearly everything you see when litigating in any court, federal or state, is an illusion. In the political world, we call it blue smoke and mirrors. I'm going to read you only one definition. We have two, but this one is the best. Cambridge Dictionary, that's one definition, but we're going to read the Merriam-Webster version, which Jameson Carroll, without a doubt, falls into line with this. Smoke and mirrors, as something intended to disguise or draw attention away from an often embarrassing or unpleasant issue. Yes, isn't that embarrassing? So we did that. We sent out the letters, and it appears that they all approve. Not only did Russ Cheney say that, as the chairman, he was the nominating chairman as well in 2022. And if you think that he was going to pick me, absolutely not. But being, I'm sure nobody put in any sort of suggestion about being a conduit from the small mom and pop shops into ANSI. Nobody thinks of that because they're making a lot of money having these corporations and federal agencies on board. I'm going to only give you a tidbit of information, then we're going to stop, because you'll find the rest of the crux of the data down below inside the description. ANSI is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation that has federal agencies and corporations on board. Another real reason why I wanted to get on their board is to clean up Russ Cheney's mantra or mission statement for them, half a nut, fuck you. I feel that is very disgusting, that because he's the chairman, because Joe Bathia, who's making a substantial amount of money, I'll hold it here for a second, making a substantial amount of money, and he approved those words, half a nut, fuck you. Without a doubt in my mind, he approved it. He kept quiet about it. The attorney sends me a letter. He sends me a letter. He says, don't write the employees, don't write the board members. Well, let me just say this. By Russ Cheney saying half a nut, fuck you, as the chairman, it's as if every one of their board members, some corporations and federal agencies, turned to me and said, half a nut, fuck you, Daryl. That's exactly it. Any other corporation that had that type of stuff going on would fire these people, without a doubt. But they're insulated. They feel insulated because guess who sits on ANSI? Christopher Wray, the FBI. And the worst thing is that last week, on the 15th of November, 2022, Christopher Wray gave a spiel, a talk to Congress concerning TikTok or senators, whatever. And he said, TikTok is a detriment to our country. In fact, the military is pulling it out of people's phones. Some of the senators are allowed to keep it, though, for some strange reason. TikTok is owned by, it's out of China, of course, and they feel that it's infiltration into our technology. You know what's infiltration into our technology? Is ANSI. ANSI is a big conduit into that. China has China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7, which mandates espionage. And between 2015 and 21, ANSI sat on the International Accreditation Form, incorporated in Delaware, and guess what? Zhao Jinwu. I'm going to show you this. This is going to be one of the last pieces I show you is a flow chart, so you get a better handle on this mess. But you go back to Christopher Wray. He said every time he talks about China, it's a detriment to our world. Our society is gone. But let me go backward just slightly. In 2009, Lockheed Martin gets hacked by China, taking the F-35 fighter blueprints. You now have the J-31, which is a copy of the F-35. The only thing is the Chinese were a little bit smarter. On each side of the wing, they built it up 16 inches on each side of those airfoils, so that gave you more stability from what I've gathered and read in technical data. Unlike the F-15, if it banks too much, it doesn't really stay in the air. So, continuing on. 2009, they get hacked. In 2012, a division of United Technologies gets hacked by China. A Sikorsky aircraft. In 2015, Lockheed Martin goes to buy Sikorsky for $9 billion. In the Connecticut Mirror, it states, with China's okay, Lockheed Martin closes in on the purchase of Sikorsky aircraft. And in the context of that article, now Chris Wray is saying, China's no good for us, China's not good for the United States, but you have Rosa DeLauro, Jim Himes, Chris Murphy, and Richard Blumenthal all say that and the sentence is exact, His sentence says, Connecticut lawmakers praise Lockheed Martin for working with an international regulator. So in one breath, you have one federal agency that should have some weight, Christopher Wray, saying that China is bad for us. You have our representation in Connecticut saying, China is good for us. Ladies and gentlemen, what the hell is going on here? Chris Wray says it's no good, director of FBI. You got these 4 people over in Connecticut that are inept, that are praising the function of what Lockheed did with communist China. Unbelievable. Last thing I'm going to show you is this. In 2015, Randy Doherty, the vice president of ANAP, chairman of the IAF, and also the principal on the IAF tax firm, handed over leadership to Communist national Zhao Jinwu, who's been involved with our quality since 1994. He is also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services, which certified the laboratory in Wuhan, China, the suspect lab. And we're going to be coming up with a video concerning that too, because ANSI ANAP are underwriters for the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware. So he was the chairman of the IAF at the time when he was certifying the laboratory in Wuhan, which means the liability falls on ANSI ANAP, not even on IAF. They watch over IAF as an underwriter. Do you see how this works? On a government contract, ANSI ANAP are called out as underwriters, thus giving it more weight. So, lawyers out there, if you happen to listen to this video, you're not going to get anything out of Wuhan, China. But you sure as hell going to get something out of an almost $85 million corporation. But the problem is that the Department of Justice sits on ANSI. So you think they're going to do anything, business owners? No, because it's all smoke and mirrors. I think they will, though. These rats are going to start running off the ship. Each one of these people who are leaders in these groups have the worst tempers of all when you start questioning them about things. They would crack and they would fold very easily. So we'll continue on. He is also mandated, Zhao Jinwu, is also mandated by his country of origin, Communist China, to take your data. Through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7, you have ANSI, who took over complete control over ANAP in 2018, and you have both federal agencies and corporations on board. 2017, Randy Doherty is being advertised on the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, a private concern being advertised on a government agency, which is a big no-no. Okay, nowadays, I don't know what they're doing. I heard states are allowing companies to be advertised on their websites because it would help them boost their economy, I guess, so the politicians could stick more in their pocket. But that's neither here nor there. So anyway, he was advertised on the Department of Homeland Security, while this guy was on the IAF Incorporated in Delaware, Zhao Jinwu. On top of it, you have this guy, Phil Matheson, who sits on ANSI's board representing the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, and at the time, as I said, between 2015 and 21, ANSI and ANAB were on the IAF, just like Lockheed Martin. Okay, they're on the IAF as well between those times. And China's mandated to take their data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. This guy from the Department of Homeland Security was making like $262,000 tax-free, called a royalty payment. You'll find it down below called, you can actually go Alexander Morgakis, ANSI, you do that, and you'll find it. You'll also find it, this whole story, this whole litany, if you go Tim Cook, ANSI, or David Calhoun, Calhoun, ANSI, you'll find the whole story there. There's videos out about this whole mess. So you have a private concern here. The thing about it is that all the federal agencies that sit on ANSI have gotten their data taken. Or as my friend Rich, who's a quality professional, would say, they're giving it away. So I did a video exposing that mess. And guess what? They took Randy down and they replaced him with some other things. And that's it. I've showed that in other videos. In fact, you have Randy, who complimented Zhao Jinwu in 2016 about taking over the IAF and how proud he was being the first IAF member, basically, in 1994, watching over our quality. The worst thing is this. You have Zhao Jinwu standing in Wuhan, China, handing over a laboratory certificate, the 17025, for the lab, the Bio 4 Level 4 lab that probably probably more than likely release the COVID virus due to the factor that we have Pamela Sale. That will be the last piece of information I'm going to bring out. I'm going to bring you two more placards. I'm going to bring you one last one that exposes the factor about Fauci, and the last one will be Pamela Sale's confession of, yes, it's possibly more than likely that the virus was released because there's no protocols in laboratory certification and implementation. So here you have him. He is the chairman of the IAF, which, remember, I told you that ANSI, ANAB are underwriters for IAF and also the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. You have the factor that he's also the chief executive of the China National China National Accreditation Services. I'll do this one first, and then I'll get to the last one. The next one is Pamela Sale came up on deposition concerning a laboratory failure in Texas. She is the vice president of ANAB and also ASCLD Lab, which is also owned by ANSI ANAB. So she gave a speech, and this is what she said about laboratory certification. She said that one of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards for forensic labs around the country to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that labs can choose to follow or not. Which means if you have informal guidelines, what kind of guidelines were set in place in Wuhan, China? She basically confessed to the fact for those specialists who are saying, yes, that laboratory released that virus. It is more than plausible that this is her confession statement to the release of the COVID-19 virus out of Wuhan, China. There's no guidelines. They choose to follow or not follow. And when you're dealing with a Bio4 lab or any laboratory, and you have no guidelines, you have quality that is out of control. And I'll tell you as a 40-year quality expert that is not good business. The last thing is, and the final thing, is about Anthony Fauci, NIH. He was questioned by Senator Rand Paul about gain-of-function research. If he knew anything, he said, no, I don't know anything. Well, guess what? We pulled out of this document here, and if anybody wants it, we'll gladly send you this document that was originally written in Chinese, but converted to English. We have all the data here defining Wuhan, China. You have the factor at the same time that they were getting certified. You have the French Prime Minister there walking around smiling and saying, oh, the lab looks good. But anyway, who knows? So Fauci, who works for the NIH, you have NIH, CDC, USDA, FDA, and also Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and Abbott Medical all sit on ANSI's board. So it's basically insulated. The thing about it is Fauci said he didn't know anything about gain of function, but in this booklet that I showed you, here's a blown up picture. It says upcoming events, second China-U.S. workshop on challenges of emerging infections, laboratory safety, and global health security. They were talking about that between May 17th and 19th, 2017, so 2 years in advance. We really don't know what went on in this mess, but I'm sure they were talking about it. And if you look at it, you'll find out that they have public health response to outbreaks and issues. They were already prepping the groundwork for what took place in 2019. I'm going to stop here, business owners. I'm going to leave it at that because I find what happened with ANSI to be absolutely deplorable and disgusting. You have Joe Batia, who did the right thing as a CEO, sent it off to the lawyer, but he had the last say. He should have told Russ Cheney to look, let's bring this guy in, or let's write a letter and apologize. You had a loss of your mind for a moment, but he did not. He protected him. So by him protecting him, he approves half a nut, fuck you. And by him approving it, everybody on the board, from the corporations to federal agencies, turned to me and said, half a nut, fuck you, Daryl. And then I go to apply for director at large. And here it is again. Russ Cheney, chairman of the nominating committee. Remember, he's the first one to look at you, and he's the last one to refuse you. It's Cheney. It's not anybody else but him. But he will get others to write letters. Oh, we didn't approve Daryl, blah, blah, blah. I know how it is, okay? But remember this, business owner. If you have an ANAB accredited registrar doing your thing, this is actually what they're telling you, because ANSI owns ANAB now. So when you look at your cert, no matter what registrar it is, you ought to take it down and put this up. In fact, if you want, give me a call. I'll mail this to you, because this should be hanging in your wall. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS, @yahoo.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.